We are live. We are going to talk with Marie from Thanks Morris about gratitude and mindfulness, and I am so stoked. And I am just realizing that I have a hat on. It's still light here, and I just took Kobe outside and it's bright, so now that I know we had a hat on, let's take it off and wait for Marie. Gonna wait for her to pop in and add her. Hello to the people coming in. Sorry, I just nearly flipped my whole table. Gonna see if I can invite Marie. There we go. Found Marie. Send. Did it work, Marie? It worked!
Yay!
I love doing lives, but I don't always have the greatest luck with the technical aspect, so...
Exact same. So...
It's all good.
Yeah, and I should...
Go ahead.
Oh, I should warn you. There is a slight chance. It probably isn't going to happen because I haven't gotten the call yet. But there's a slight chance I could get a phone call. But if I get... Because it boots you out. Like, I can't even decide to ignore the phone call. It always just boots me. So, just a heads up, if I get booted, that's probably why. But we'll hope I don't get the phone call.
I feel like I've probably been lucky. I get so many spam calls. Like, I'm excited when someone is actually calling me. So, knock on wood, I don't get a call either.
Right? I would just have to start over. But
exactly. Oh my goodness. Look at all these friends.
I know. Hi, everybody.
I am so excited. For everyone who does not know this, Marie and I actually planned this like, what was a month ago? Too long?
Over a month ago, because it's been, I've officially not had COVID. No. Yeah, I've officially like not had COVID for a month. So it's been a long time because that was the whole reason I got COVID and I couldn't do it.
Hey.
Crazy.
I'm just glad that you're able to do it now, and
Me too.
who cares?
Me too. But I honestly am so excited.
I am too.
Yeah.
Mostly to listen to you.
Oh, thanks. I've been doing a lot of talking today.
I know, right? After you work all day and you talk all day, then you get to come on Instagram Live and I get to make you talk some more.
I know. But no, I'm really excited. I haven't gone live in that amount of time either because I was doing really good at being consistent with lives, and then everything got, I mean, it's when you're physically unable to do things, it really, and we can even talk about this in a little bit, but it really was eye-opening as to, that hustle mentality of like, I felt so guilty for a little bit of like, everything's getting pushed back, like the lives, the content, work, my kids, like it just, it was an eye-opener for my mindset and mental health.
Exactly. And I'm sure people will love to hear your experience probably about that, going through it recently, and tips for how we go through those things, because we all go through them. And it's whether you're a school-based SLP or you are not even an SLP, whoever you are, we all have those seasons in our lives. So
exactly.
I'm excited to hear about those.
Yes.
But I guess before we start, I don't know how many people are here that know me versus you. So I'm going to let you give a mini intro on who you are, and then I might start asking you a couple questions and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, no, totally open for just natural conversation. But I am Marie. I am a SoCal based, lots of things. I wear lots of hats. I'm a SoCal based human. No, but in the speech world, I'm a preschool SLP. I work in a public school district. I love my job as a preschool speech therapist, and I work in an inclusion program. So that's just has a cool layer of uniqueness, but also just mindfulness and intention that I just love about that program. And then I over a year ago now, I started my own business because I have, in my life been very moved by mindfulness and self-reflective practices, and ultimately, understanding the power of gratitude. So I opened up an online shop and, created a gratitude journal to really promote that consistency of gratitude practices, to promote our self-love practices and things like that. And that has since evolved. I mean, it's still going, it's doing great, but it's also kind of pushed me into this sort of realm of mindset coaching. And just as I've researched and gained knowledge, I want to be able to share that with people that want it. And so that's been very awesome to kind of open up opportunities to do courses and mentoring and things like that. And then not just for speech pathologists, but I definitely have a heavy perspective there. So I work with lots of speech pathologists when thinking about mindset and preventing burnout, at least getting through burnout if you're starting to feel burnt out. And then also, any individuals that want to talk about mindfulness or mindset or feel like they need some guidance in their lives, no matter the background. But so that's me in that's a nutshell version of me.
That's a very beautifully tied up in a little package with a nice bow, little blurb about yourself. Usually when people are like, tell me about yourself, I'm like, ding, 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 ding. That was perfect.
You know what all I do is I have that flashing light in my head of and honestly, because I'll tell you it's not like I have that written down anywhere. This is probably the best I've said it. So if you're going to repost this, I need to watch it and write that down. But anyway,
you bet.
But honestly, I just go through my life. At first I remember I'm not just an SLP. So that's why I like to say, well, I'm an SLP, but I mean I'm really just a human living. I'm out here doing it. But then, I have all these worlds and they all kind of collide. And so as I'm telling people, it's I just think about when one started and then when the other came in and all these things. But it's, the whole self-love, mindfulness, and gratitude thing really has been definitely lifelong, but definitely since my adulthood, I've been diving into those concepts, and because I have had struggles and I've needed to dive into them and get help and things like that. So.
Which brings you priceless perspectives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of times with experiences like that, no one likes going through stuff like that because it doesn't feel good. But I think sometimes, and especially with probably a lot of the things that you learned, or maybe, I don't know your whole story, but maybe some things that you learned from others that helped you get through those things, you can learn a lot. And it still doesn't mean that the next time something like that happens, it's going to be any easier, but your ability to get through it is enhanced.
Yes, and your ability to understand, maybe for lack of a better term, but your ability to understand the other side, I think definitely helps you. But with that, what really it comes down to is the awareness and the ability to understand the present, to understand what you can take out of the present moment. So that way you are pausing and you're being reflective and you're not just focused. If you're burnt out, for instance, something that I've taught and that I've learned through experience, but also in talking with other professionals is, if you're so focused on getting to that light at the end of the tunnel, that's great. It's great that we can see it. It's great that, for me in April when it's crazy IEP season, I at least know May 25th is the end of the school year. But I also don't, I have a job where I need to be present. I have little humans that do rely on me as much, maybe sometimes, maybe more, than I rely on them. But I also they bring me joy, and if I'm so focused on that light at the end of the tunnel, I might miss what's happening now with them. And I might miss valuable things that actually, are going to help me laugh my way through the rest of the day or find that joy. So it's really important when I'm talking about these things too, for anybody to really remember, it's really great when you know what's on the other side, but what's happening right here. It's tough. It's tough. It's like you said, it's not like we want to be going through these experiences. So how can we find the little pieces of joy that will allow us to fully appreciate and fully learn from what's going on?
Exactly, especially because you can't stop those things in your life, and they're going to come. I don't know the magnitude or when and where or how, but they come to all of us. And so I feel like when I'm so excited to get more tools in my toolbox, my gratitude toolbox, my mindfulness toolbox.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I had as you can see, I have my favorite Sharpie pen because I'm ready to take notes about.
Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure. All right. I'm just kidding.
But I also feel like people hopefully already know this, but in case those who are here don't know this, if you have questions at any point in time, please just drop them in the comments and we'll address them.
Yes.
I feel like sometimes I forget to say that. And so when I'm doing lives, I feel like people are like not sure if it's like, can I ask a question or not?
Yeah.
Please.
No, I love it. And I know you do a lot of lives, so you're probably really good at like catching the questions and going back. Well, but you.
I was going to say, I ask for help. I'm like, everyone needs to make sure.
Yeah. No, but I mean like, you know the drill kind of a thing. Like
Got it. I was going to say, I'm glad you said that though, because I haven't done a live in a while, and I always ask first people on the live to be like, please make sure that I'm watching the comments because sometimes I just miss it. But
yeah,
it's all good. But I love to even if you don't ask a question, I do love to like share the comments. I see someone here said, "Whoa, needed this."
Yeah.
You're a grad student here, and I've been struggling with appreciating where I am in life.
Oh, then you're the perfect place, friend.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, wherever you are in life, but even Marie and I, we remember being in grad school. That's no joke.
That's really, and that grad school was my first year, second semester of grad school. That's really where this stuff started taking off for me. So, where's Bridget's just, hold on. Bridget's in here, which means we're going to have a conversation because she's good at this.
There we go.
Yes, Bridget, I'm excited to see you in here. And then, see, she said it. She's going to ask questions and comment to 10.
Bridget, we need you in our life.
Yes.
Everyone needs a Bridget.
Everybody does. I love Bridget so much. Anyways, I forget what I was saying already.
Tell us about, you were talking about how some of this stuff like kickstarted as a grad student. I think that's a perfect segue to just.
I think so, because then, we dive deeper into my story too, and you get to know me. But no, so, first year grad student, second year grad student, it doesn't matter really what year you are. I know, oh my gosh, I remember the feeling of being a first year grad student and seeing the second years and like, those people have all their ish together. I'm never going to be that way. And then you get to your second year and you realize they didn't have their ish together. And then you get to your fifth year as an SLP and you realize I'm never going to have my ish together. and I do remind me in a little bit to talk about like being balanced and balancing, because I have a lot to say about that. But what I've realized, it's actually not about being super balanced and having all your time managed perfectly, unless you have like 500 assistants to do it for you. Because really what it is it's you learn how to be you learn how to be a balancer. Like you learn the act of balancing instead of focusing on being so balanced. But we can get to that. But I do want to address like being a first year grad student. So in my program, the second semester was nuts. I think if this was is intentional in the program, I really do. It's never been confirmed, but my I don't really have a huge psychological background, but from the psychology classes I took, I'm like, there's a philosophy in there somewhere with what they're doing, right? So your first semester, it's, you have your anatomy and physiology class, which was my worst. You have your adult neuro class. We had some early language classes, and then we had one clinic, just one. I only had one client. It was so easy, such a breeze. In your second semester, you get thrown 2 clients, you get thrown on the diagnostic team, plus you still have all that coursework. Same amount of coursework, right? So all of a sudden, it's crazy time. And it was like, do they do this on purpose? Like they ease you in and then all of a sudden, but sometimes that's what the job feels like. Like the school year starts, you're smooth sailing, and all of a sudden 5 assessments come in, right? So I can kind of see this. Anyways, and I don't say that to scare anybody. You figure it out, like I promise you. But I just remember being so overwhelmed. And I was also going through a lot in my personal life. I was in, and I've shared about this on Instagram, maybe not in quite as much detail, but I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship. I was 25 when I went into my second semester of grad school. And I was basically in a state of denial of the state of my on again, off again relationship of like the last 4 years. My whole early 20s, I was in this very toxic, unhealthy relationship where I basically, now that I look back, I know I had very little, if any, self-worth because I allowed myself to stay in a situation that was so bad for me. And I was basically getting to a point in that second semester of feeling so overwhelmed, and like just drained, that I kind of realized like I have no emotion. Like I was like so emotionally like numb. And then I was also in graduate school with, and I had my autism clinic. I had my speech sound clinic with an apraxic client, little boy who, like, these kids, like, they needed me. And as a first time clinician, essentially, like, I didn't know how not to give like 100% of, which is a good thing. Like I still want to be giving 100% to my clients, but like I couldn't compartmentalize things at first. Like I was really struggling with that. And then I was also on diagnostic team doing evaluations. So like that was really hard. Plus I worked part-time, so like it was everything. All of those things were happening. And I somehow made it through the semester, but I think the way that I made it through was because, now my story's getting muddled in my head, but basically by the end of that semester, I had figured out I had no self-love, and I figured out that I didn't love myself. I figured out that nobody was going to love me the way I wanted to be loved if I didn't love myself first. I figured out I needed to put myself first. So by the end of that semester, I broke up with my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend now, obviously, and never looked back. I mean, we had been on and on again, off again. And at that point I cut it and I was like, we're done. Like, don't want this anymore. The reason was, after all of that craziness of a semester, I realized when I was happiest through all of it, when I felt like I had emotion, was when I was at school. So thank God I had school to keep me focused on something. But my autism professor, amazing woman, so amazing. Instead of traditional soap notes, this woman, every session, twice a week, every session, we were writing self-reflective, like mini essays, like paragraphs. And the idea was we were writing about our session. So we were doing it like as soap notes, like, when my client came in, he was this, and this was going on. So we were observing what was happening in the session. And then we were talking about what we wanted to happen in the session. But she wanted us to be almost self-critical, but like in a reflective way, not saying, I did this bad, I'm going to do this better next time, but instead really taking a deep look and saying, I could have exhibited more patience there. Oh, I was really like flexible right there. Like she wanted us to really talk about like what we were doing well in as well, and that was actually her focus, because she would hold little conferences with us and we would talk about those. And in one of the conferences with me, like halfway through the semester, she was like, I really like how trusting you are of this self-reflective process. It's been really easy for you to just write about what's going on and make connections about how 2 weeks ago you tried this, now it's working, and it's because you were repeating it or whatever. And so she was asking me if I'd done like journaling or, self-reflection. And I did, every once in a while, but she was just saying how it was really cool that it was, because she said it's helping me become a better clinician. And so then it just kind of made me think like, like maybe that's why I feel so good here. Like, that's why I want to be here, because I have this time for myself to write, essentially, and reflect on myself and reflect on the situation, and then learn from it and grow from it. And then I have this client who's flourishing, and that was really cool to see. Plus, I had amazing grad school friends and support. That's like a whole other thing. Being there they were my family outside of being with my family. My amazing family who was supporting me long before I broke up with this person, because they were like, come on. But I needed to be doing something for myself to really be able to look inward and say, this is what I need. Everybody could tell me what they thought I needed, but I wasn't listening because I wasn't ready and I wasn't really doing the work. And so once like that clinic ended, I kept writing, and I kept night after night, like just doing these reflections of my day, because I was like, I'm emotionally numb. Like I don't feel a thing, and so as I did that and I gained more awareness of me and what I wanted and where I was in life, it helped me kind of see what I needed to do for myself. And, you know, I did that, and it was hard. There was guilt attached with doing something for myself that I know hurt another person, in a sense. I think we can attach guilt to a lot of things. Anytime we put ourselves first, that guilt can come. But I kept doing the journaling. And one thing that I decided to do, my mom actually told me to do this because I was really struggling. I was like, did I make, you know, the right decision? I knew I wanted that, but you just naturally are like, well, what if this person, you know, harms themselves, or, you know, all these things. Like there were real guilty feelings attached. And so she told me to write out reasons why I was grateful for myself. It just sounds so weird to say, but that is such a huge act of self-love when you can sit down and tell yourself why you're grateful for you. And so I started doing that, and I think that really helped me build some confidence that I don't think I ever had, like even in high school, you know, because I really wasn't, because we naturally, as humans, we focus on others. We look at what others are doing. We're grateful for others. We might feel, you know, we might compare ourselves to others or feel some sort of jealousy or envy towards others. I think it's more rare to find us to be looking inward so much and actually saying, hey, thank you for doing, you know, thank you for putting yourself through grad school. Thank you for, you know, taking time for yourself, you know, whatever it is. And so that really helped just kind of spark some confidence. It sparked some interest in like this whole gratitude thing, because I was like, well, okay, my mom's been talking about gratitude since I was 19, and what is this, you know? And so that's kind of that story. That's kind of where it like really culminated. And then ever since then, I, you know, as I finished out grad school and got a job, and, you know, then I started diving into more mindfulness practices and meditation and different things. But that was really a huge part of where I learned through my own experiences what I needed, what really was helpful in kind of helping me develop really that self-love and self-worth, which is one of the first steps into anything mindful. If you want to be mindful, you've got to have certain, I call them pillars, but there's like criteria, you know, and that self-awareness and self-love, I mean, that's where it starts. That's my long answer.
But it's perfect and it's recorded, right? If this was a conversation you and I were having and it wasn't recorded here on a live, I would be distraught probably, because I remember a couple highlights and then I would be like, oh no, we're gonna have this conversation again.
Right. And it's, I mean, yeah, and this is organic. We didn't, you know, we don't have an outline. We don't have anything. Yeah.
I want to pull a couple of things that you said. I love everything you said, but a couple of things that stuck out to me that I'm sure everyone has felt at some point was that guilt part that you were talking about. The second we try to turn and look at ourselves for a second, there's just this inherent guilt. And it makes me think of, I'm sure everyone or many people have been on an airplane. And I always think it's funny when they do the demo and they're like, you need to put on your oxygen mask first before assisting other customers. And I always thought like, well, that's silly. If I was a parent, of course I'd put the oxygen mask, you know, my kid first. And you know, as I've reflected, as I've gotten older, I realize like in this situation, for example, we have to put off that guilt because we do have to focus on ourselves first if we want to have, you know, this optimum or maximum effect in helping others and having relationships with others and functioning.
Exactly. And I think of your metaphor. Okay, so the airplane, the reason they have adults put their mask on first is so they can put their kids' masks on after. Because if you take the time to put the kids' mask on and then they're without their adult, it's faster. It's a faster process. Put your mask on because you know how, you know, and then you put the child's on, because that's going to be a faster process. It's going to keep you there and present with your child. And, you know, I mean, it's a sad thing to, I guess it's a really like harsh metaphor, but that's the reason. No. That's the reason. But there is a level of guilt associated with that. And it's funny because so recently I learned there's like 3 big types of guilt, and I'm probably going to forget one of them, but there's natural guilt. So that's like when you feel like, even the other day, like I made a funny joke to somebody and it was sarcastic. And then I walked away like, I don't think they got it. Now I feel bad, you know, and that's like natural. Like we might question what we say, but then there's toxic guilt. And that's like if a day, 2, 3 days later, like I'm still focused on that and I feel really guilty and it's eating at me, like that's toxic. That's unhealthy. That's literally poison in your body, because that's what happens when you have those negative feelings, when your cortisol is overloading your body. Like that's bad for you. And then there is existential guilt. I remembered it. That's when, and that's when you feel like the weight of the world is like on your shoulders, and things that are happening in the world, like you yourself can, like, if you're not doing enough to help prevent certain things, which like it's, you know, there's so many altruistic people. I mean, SLPs in general, like we are altruistic. And I think sometimes we forget we want to be service providers and we want to serve everybody. Even me with I had a coach tell me once, like, you want to serve everybody, and I know you do, and you want to serve 100% of the people on this planet. You want them all to be practicing gratitude. She's like, but you are going to wear yourself thin if you aren't, you know, taking care of yourself. And, you know, it takes a village, and it's little by little and all these things. And that's kind of it. So that kind of existential guilt, you know, when we can sit there and realize like what we're doing and focus on our why, you know, and really, again, kind of go back to, well, I'm grateful that I'm doing this, and that's enough, and that's okay. That's kind of where that comes in. But that's like toxic, but like you're constantly thinking about it, and just
right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I recently learned it. Doing my research. You guys, my weekends are fun, like for me, but they are literally like me, messy bun, sweats, and on my computer writing ebooks and researching this stuff, and it's fun. But that's why I do it, so we can then have these great conversations.
So helpful. Like, how much better can it get when you enjoy doing that, and then it helps other people? Like,
I love it.
You cannot go wrong.
No.
You have yourself in a great position, and I'm glad. I'm sure everyone here will also be glad, but glad.
Well, I'm grateful to be here, so thanks.
Oh, this is so good. This is so good. I've already made notes.
Are you taking notes?
Yes.
Oh, I like what Bridget's saying. Even if I only positively impact one person, that's one more person that I help. That's exactly it. That's like the best mentality.
That's what I was going to say. I think sometimes like our perspective or paradigm shift can be really hard, but makes a really big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Or like tell ourselves stories. That's something that I've learned, is I didn't realize that subconsciously we tell ourselves stories to make sense of the world and what is going on around us. And they may not always be true stories.
No.
But stories you tell yourself directly impact the way you feel, and the way you feel is going to impact what you say and what you do.
Yep, that's it. You hit the nail on the head, though. Because and Bridget knows this because she's taking the course, and I've talked about this in workshops too. But you know, our thoughts are great. Our thoughts are great indicators of, like you said, how we're processing information and how we perceive the world. But our thoughts aren't always 100% honest with us. Our thoughts sometimes get a little carried away, and we have to keep them in check. And so just like feelings, because feelings are fleeting, feelings don't stay. You're going to feel sad about things. You're going to feel happy about things. And I tell my girls, like they are like clouds floating by. They're ever changing, and they come and go and all those things. Thoughts are the same way. So when we understand that about thoughts, that we can actually tell them, okay, go away now, they do. They actually do. And that's in our control. And therefore, you know, sometimes our feelings can be in our control. Now, if you guys are like me, I'm an emotional reactor typically. And that's part of why all these mindfulness practices have been so helpful for me, because it hasn't changed me, it hasn't changed my brain chemistry, but it has allowed me to be more reflective and mindful about how I approach situations, because I'm more in tune with my thoughts that start going down a spiral, and my feelings that start being triggered by my thoughts and all these things. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that one. They're fleeting, and I always think of them like, okay, go away now, or shut the door on them, you know? Yeah.
And I love that you picked that up. And this is like my plug for I love executive functioning and self regulation. And something that you and I probably do, and I feel like we have to continue learning to do, is when we self regulate, especially when it comes to like emotions or hard things going on, we have to really talk to ourselves. And whether most people know it or not, a lot of people talk themselves in their heads, and we talk ourselves, like when people say talk yourself off a cliff, I never realized, like, really in our heads, we should talk ourselves off a cliff. And when I'm really stressed, or when you're really stressed, I actually talk to myself. I'm like,
Yeah.
we're okay, we have to like, or then, you know, maybe we'll talk about something else. But I sometimes, if I can't just get that brain coach in my head to help me get those thoughts gone or to recalibrate something, I physically have to use my voice to get that gone. Because it's not easy. It's not just like,
It's not.
Okay.
No.
Back, especially if you've thought about it for a long time.
Yes. Yes.
Something that like I've gone through, and I thought about things for way too long, and it just became the thing I thought about when I woke up. I couldn't go to sleep at night because I was thinking about it, and it was hard to put off. It's possible. Sure. Anyone who needs to know that. It is possible, but it's not always easy.
It's not always easy, but there are ways to build the habit. So,
and let's learn those.
Let's learn those. So, yeah, because here's what's fun, I guess. We all know this moment when you have those thoughts that are just doing their thing, right? They're spiraling, they're snowballing, however you want to visualize it. I just see a tornado when I think about this moment where your thoughts have literally like gone so far deep, and you're already thinking of all the things you need to do in case all these things happen or whatever it is. And there's a point when you get to, you may not say it verbatim like this, but there's a point when you recognize, wow, my thoughts are getting out of control. You might think, oh, my thoughts are feeling really negative. Oh, my thoughts are out of control. But you still have already come up with all these, situations, and you've had there's so much that's gone on. But there is sometimes that point, right, where you recognize it. The next step, once you recognize it, is so crucial because it's going to kind of outline what you do next. So you can either, which I've done this, and I'm very guilty of this, like multiple times over, you can either just get mad at yourself and be like, wow, I can't believe my thoughts, like really, and then you might change your thought pattern, but then it might always go back, right? So you can do that, but it's not going to be as effective as actually changing in this moment the chemistry and actually trying to promote different hormones essentially, or different different, like I'm thinking serotonin. This is where I'm going with this. Okay, it's there's actually ways to get some serotonin in there to lessen, because what you're doing when those thoughts are spiraling and you're starting to come up with all of these situations is you're just the I don't want to like sit here and be blaming people like you're doing this, but what's happening is your cortisol in your brain is going up, your stress hormone, right? That's yeah. So when you get to that point where you're like, shoot, I'm having negative thoughts, your options are really, do I dwell on that and keep having negative thoughts? Or do I try and have a solution here? Do I be mindful about this? So what I've learned to do, and what I coach my people to do, is say, okay, it's okay. I know I have these thoughts, and I know I've come up with these solutions, but again, these aren't permanent. These aren't even real, right? Until I make them real. There's this quote, and it's in one of the journals, but it's because I put quotes in my gratitude journals. Just in case I didn't say that, me and my details. I think everybody knows what's in my brain. That's my problem. But there's a quote by Mark Victor Hansen, I think is his name. And he says, what you think about comes about. And it's so true. And I think that's a very, he's not the only one that said this. He's not the only one that knows this. So many people have talked about, like, you are your thoughts, and I just like that phrasing. What you think about comes about, because it's manifestation in any form. And so that other option to kind of build the serotonin is first, just acknowledge your thoughts. We don't want to dismiss them, right? You don't want to be in denial of what you're thinking, because like a good improv scene, you wouldn't deny your scene partner. Okay, there's my quick improv plug. But you acknowledge them. You acknowledge that that's just the reality of the current situation. And then you can just be super weird like me and say thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for this moment, right? Thank you for the awareness, and now please be gone. And the way we can get them to be gone is actually really simple. You can think about three, so you could do a gratitude list, but what I found to be very effective and what has been shown in studies, when you think of anything, but I like to think of three. Three is like my magic number. I don't know why, but I feel like after I list three things, I can keep going. Really, after you list one, you should keep going. But anyways, so I think of three good things that have happened to me, either that day or that week, like good things. Like I'm a hugger, right? I love to hug. I love, I get to see my boyfriend on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays when we work out. So every Tuesday after work is like the longest stretch I go without seeing him because I hadn't seen him until Saturday. I love hugging him on Tuesdays. So like I always think about that hug and it just immediately makes me happy. Why? Because my brain actually thinks it really happened. Like right now, I'm actually like smiling.
You're glowing.
My brain thinks that it just happened. So when you relive that moment, you get a dopamine hit as if it just happened and your serotonin raises. So why not think of three good things that happened, right? And so it's kind of a pattern. You just thought of all these bad situations. Now you're going to think about three good things that really happened. They really happened to you. This isn't fake. This isn't a lie, And that actually can get you started on, another path. Then you might think about, an event coming up that makes you really happy. Then, so that's one way to do it. You could, and that's just in thinking about it. You're not even saying it out loud and expressing it. And when I teach things, when I teach gratitude practices, I always stress the fact that it's great to think about things you're grateful for, but studies do show when you write them down or express it in some way, you actually are doing more for your brain than just thinking about them. But in situations where you're like maybe laying in bed and tossing and turning at night and those spiraling thoughts happen, then like laying there and starting to relive those good moments. I'm not saying you have to write things down all the time, basically, but that's a pretty effective way. And I've tried it, it works, and I'm very good bad thought spiraler. So of course, but yeah.
A lot of practice.
But it's
easy at the beginning.
No, because go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm assuming it wasn't easy at the beginning, but maybe it was. I'm assuming.
No. None of this is easy at first. The trick with any of this is consistency. So maybe it's better for you if you're very prone to getting sucked into your thoughts and that's like something you really want to work on, then maybe you do write it down every time. You turn on your nightstand light and you keep a piece of paper or a journal or something by your bed that you can write in when you need to. Or, it's something that you write in every night, but then you have it there too to go back to and use as needed. Because no, these aren't easy things, but they get easier over time, just like anything you do does. It's that consistency piece, which is huge when it comes to mindfulness and mindset. I actually, my course is called Making Mindful Habits or Mindful Habit Making. It's in there, but I've changed it a couple times, so I always forget which one I chose. But that's the whole point is like you're building habits, and then that's what happens. You consistently practice these things and they become habits, not just practices that you do even only once a week, because really you want to be doing things every day. I know it sounds like a lot, but
it's probably one of those things that once you get into the habit, it becomes a mindset and it's natural for you. And it's no longer like oh wait, where's my notepad? Or, oh wait, what was I supposed to think? It just becomes such a part of you and your mindset and how your mind reacts.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's close to automatic. It's inseparable from your brain, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
How long you've been doing this?
How long have I been doing this? I mean, as professionally, like coaching and speaking events and stuff, I've been doing this for about under a year, but I have been creating content around these things for like 2.5 years. And then obviously but then if you're thinking of my own practices, like consistently 5-ish years, 4.5 years.
And look at where she is now, and she's still growing, right, Marie?
Oh, that's the thing. Like,
you just said, right? You just learned about these 3 types of guilt.
Yeah.
Recently, right? So this is on.
And that's the fun in this, you know, me learning myself and learning about all of these things is, I just know that it's going to be a lifelong thing. The point is kind of understanding those basic things and understanding like what it means to be mindful, understanding, kind of those basics when it comes to, living a grateful life, or living in gratitude. And having like self-awareness is a big one. My biggest lesson there is that I can change. Like, I talk a lot about protecting my energy and what protects my energy, and how, because, for that reason, knowing what kind of energy I want to bring into a room and bring to others when I connect with others. But what protects my energy now, what gives me energy now, is so different from 5 years ago, So that's a big part too, is I'm always going to be learning about myself, but so I guess that's like the fun in it too, is just, I'll always be getting to know me. I should turn that into a Pinterest quote.
I love it. I also I was like, every time you talk, I have like 3 points that come in my head, and I have to like be like, which one do I want to comment on, because we're going to go down that road.
Yeah, I know.
Something that you did say when you talked about writing, and I'm sure maybe you have more experiential or even empirical evidence than me talking about my experience with this, but I feel like when I take the time to write things down, it does a couple things. First of all, it requires more effort, like honestly, like neurologically and cognitively, when you write things down, it requires more. And I feel like it's documented now, so you can go back and you can read it again and you can reflect on it. And I think, you've been talking about self-reflection, whether it's in the moment when something's happening, or, maybe you need that juice or that from looking at the past experiences. And I love looking at old gratitude lists or old times to put something down. And I wouldn't get to do that if I hadn't have written it down. Or, some people do an audio. Yeah, I'm not good with that. But I love the idea of documenting it, because then you get to keep it for forever.
Exactly. But I know when I was in college and high school, like, I knew taking written notes, or what really helped me study, like, for exams and stuff, especially in college, was going back and rewriting notes. So I learned kind of in like my second half of grad school that I wanted to take my notes on my computer in class, but that I would actually do a better job of learning them later and kind of remembering the lesson if I went back pen to paper, not typing. I wouldn't retype the notes, but pen to paper. For me, I think it's a sensory thing too. I really do, because when I'm writing, this feels so good. Like, it was when I was figuring out the journal I wanted to be selling, when I was like thinking about paper, like what kind of pen would be good if I want to do like a gift box with a certain pen, like, because I'm very, is it tactile? Like, it's just, I like the way this feels. And so that in and of itself, that sensory experience for me personally is already enhancing my self-reflection time. It's enhancing my mindfulness practice, and so, why not, and then, because I always say, like, too, like, some people don't like it. Some people don't want to write it. And, I'm like, any expression is an expression. Maybe you're a singer. Maybe you are, you paint. Maybe you draw. Mark, my boyfriend, he, some mornings he just does like a morning drawing session because he's an artist, and, that does it for him. That's his mindfulness. That's his expression of gratitude. He might, be thinking about things he's grateful for, and he's sitting there drawing whatever, and that's manifested onto the paper. So it is however you want to do it, but it's the expression of it that they say is better than, like, it shows in studies, or it has shown in studies, that just thinking about it is not going to, there's certain levels of activity in the pleasure centers of the brain, and those activities are heightened when you're actually expressing gratitude.
See, and I love this. I things like that, like, honestly, neurologically, there is something physical going on that you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And, and if this is like a blasphemous wrong metaphor, correct me. But I think about things like if I broke my leg or my leg hurt and I had to go to PT, or I went to the doctor and they prescribed me something that said, if you take this medicine and this, like, it will heal your leg because your leg needs this. And even if I don't understand their medical explanation, it's going to physically help my leg. And I feel like things like this, sometimes we don't think about, but there are things, just like you said, with like gratitude or talking about these things, it really does put dopamine and serotonin pumping through your brain.
Yeah.
Similar to the way if, you know, you had to take some medicine for your broken leg. Like, yeah. And I think it just shows how powerful it is. It's like, these are very real things, and it's not just something someone said, oh, this will just make you feel good, just try it. There are real changes, like organic changes in the brain that happen.
Yeah. And the thing that I love about, so there's a TED Talk. All you have to do is Google gratitude TED Talk, and it should be the first one that comes up because that's the first one that came up when I first did it a couple years ago. But there is, I think is he a German monk? I'm not sure, but his name is Brother David Steins-Ronst, and he talks about this idea of the fact that what gratitude does, what living a grateful life, as he says it does. And the first point he makes in the whole video, it's like doing one of those unpopular opinion kind of things. You know, he's basically debunking the myth, so to speak, because I've heard this said, not really recently, because I think I've just talked about it so much that nobody's said this to me in a while, but just kind of that whole idea of, well, I don't have anything to be grateful for because I'm not happy. And he debunks that. He says it's not happiness that leads to gratitude. It's the other way around. You first have to be living gratefully to be truly happy, or to find true happiness in things. And then he talks about what regular gratitude practices and what living a grateful life, because those are interchangeable. Having regular gratitude practices and actually intentionally being grateful are the same thing, as long as in those gratitude practices you're intentionally being grateful, because that leads you into living a grateful life. And so when you're intentionally practicing these things on a daily basis, he talks about that creates this abundance mindset. It creates the idea of having enough and not feeling scared that you're not going to run out of things. It makes you more generous because you're willing to share. I mean, it's like, I sound like I'm talking to my preschoolers, but you're willing to share even because you're not afraid of not having enough, if that makes sense. You might be willing to make bigger decisions for yourself or your family, not bigger, but you might be more decisive with things because you don't have that fear of not having enough because you're grateful for what you have. And then he talks about the idea of gratitude, how does he put it? Now I have to remember. I'm like looking on my desk, like, where are my notes? Because, but he talks about you being less prone to, violent thoughts. I mean, I know that sounds kind of harsh. I know we're not necessarily thinking for us, but just in general, like for, maybe people who are struggling with certain things or whatever, it just is very helpful in that regard. And it makes you more accepting of others and their differences. And I think that was a really powerful one for me, because I don't think, I don't necessarily think I'm unaccepting of others and their differences, but it did, when I was thinking about that in a very self-reflective way, I was thinking about, wow, like, I do think I have a hard time when people have different opinions than me or different perspectives. And it just made me realize, and this is something I've talked about with Rachel from Connections with Rach, is that this idea that we're all connected, we are all energy, and we all have different backgrounds and different opinions. And I know I have opinions and can be very opinionated, but in practicing that gratitude and having that intention, it has helped me be way less judgmental. And I think that is a huge win, because I don't want to be that person passing judgment. It's not mine to pass, So yeah, that's a really powerful TED Talk. He's way more articulate than I just was. I'm sorry, but
you are very articulate. I can't imagine what he was like.
Oh, he's amazing. I want to meet him. My goal.
Does he have well, he's a monk. I was like, does he have an Instagram?
You know what though? He might have like a good fan page. He has a website. But I don't know. It's hard. It's hard because he's given this TED Talk. I don't think it's run necessarily by him. So I don't know. I have to do my research a little bit more, but he's a cool guy and he's gone on podcasts. I think he was on NPR at one point. He's just cool.
It's cool. And I think thematically, something I pulled from what you just said that we already talked about, but I think is equally important, is it is a paradigm shift. Like, it changes the way you view the world, and it just becomes, I don't know how to explain it, because I've kind of been through the same thing where I feel like I view the world inherently differently and those around me differently when I have these mindfulness and gratitude practices in place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, imagine if everyone had that.
Yeah.
So I love when you spread and you teach everyone not only to do these things, but why it's helpful. Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I think that's the biggest piece, the why and the how. We all know gratitude is a good thing. We all know what it can do, but why is that important? And how can we do it? I think those are two huge pieces. And so, I'm glad to be back in the live game talking about this stuff, because it's so important to me. I had a thought and it's lost now, but
if it comes back, jump on it.
Okay, I will. Yeah, no, these are great things to be talking about. And like you said, I can't imagine if everybody was kind of in tune. Oh, I think I wanted to talk about that idea of seeing the world with a different lens. That was kind of what you brought up, because it just, like, I know for me, we all go through seasons. Like, I could quite honestly, I could wake up tomorrow and be kind of grumpy, right? I actually felt like that yesterday. Yesterday I was like super on edge and a little bit snippy with, not my students, but in my head I was. That feeling where you're like, you're a child and you don't deserve me to be short with you. But in my head, like, I am just irritable today. Like, I was just so irritable. And I don't know if he felt my tension from his house, but my boyfriend happened to just text me just a quick little, like, nice message. And it kind of re-centered me and just made me think, oh, like, yeah, like, why am I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm being short, but it was helpful. And that's important too. And I should have talked a little bit more about, like, shifting our narrative. That kind of goes along with the thought spiraling, but in a minute, but remind me.
I'm going to write it down.
Okay. But anyway, so it kind of helped me realize, like, in that moment, like, okay, I'm glad I was aware. I'm glad I'm aware that I'm feeling a little bit off today. Because sometimes you don't aware. You just know you're off, but you're just, like, not really talking yourself through it. But I was yesterday. I think that's definitely something that's come out of these consistent practices, is just my comfortability with being alone with my thoughts, which is a big piece. That's why I always start when I do the courses and the workshops. I always start with self-awareness, because we have to get comfortable with the uncomfortability of being alone with our thoughts and getting to know what they all mean to each other. So that's a great, as far as success story, that's a great success, right? I'm okay with being alone with my thoughts, but having him send me that message really made me think about, where I was and, like, being present. I was grateful for that. And then it really helped me throughout the rest of the day. On one hand, do the things that were going to provide a little bit more good energy for me. And then 2, just kind of get my lens, fix my lens in a way, and kind of go through the rest of the day, just seeking that joy, seeking things that were going to be inherently maybe good for me, things that I would remember at the end of the day that were good, but that perspective, it's interesting. And I know at the beginning of our talk, I was telling you, when I had COVID, like, it really made me realize when you're physically in pain and not feeling well. I mean, I didn't want to look at my computer screen. I know we like rescheduled the live like 4 times because I was like, oh, I'm not dizzy today. Oh wait, now I'm dizzy.
Right.
You know, like it was so physically draining and just and then you're quarantining, so you're like upset and like depressed almost. Like I don't want to say I was depressed, but I was very not me. I was not happy. I was tired and I was emotionally different and all these things. But the whole time I knew, because of all these practices of this different lens that I'd kind of put on as I practiced them, I kept telling myself there's so much to be grateful for. And like I would go sit outside and just let the sun hit my body, my aching body at the time. And you know, and just sit there and at least just say like, you know, this is a moment. Like I'm here and I'm grateful for the sun on my face, whatever it is. And I think that really helped me see the healing that I wanted, right? In that situation, it, you know, really helped me trust that there was that light at the end of the tunnel, that it wasn't always going to feel, you know, I wasn't always going to have these body aches and chills and all that crazy stuff. And so I've been sick in the past, but you know, this is the first time I really could really trust in that like mindfulness piece of it, I guess. And with anything. Oh, I froze. Did I freeze?
Are you okay? I was like, it like froze for a second, but I think you're good now.
Did I freeze?
I think you're good now.
Okay.
You're fine. I think. Oh no. Now we're frozen. I'll give it a second. Maybe. Let's see. Don't mind this. Let's see, Marie, you're frozen, but can you hear me? Oh. We'll hop back on in just a second. Hold up.